Penrose.
Thank you, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to contribute on behalf of the Labour Party on this important piece of legislation, Social Welfare Pensions and Civil Registration Bill 2018. As Deputy Lee says, the bill gives a legislative effect mainly to the various measures announced in the budget on the 9th of October, dealing with increase in weekly rates of pensions, benefits and allowances, and I'm not going to recite them, including an increase in the qualified child increased payment, which is especially welcome. I certainly support the extension of the period of payment of domiciliary care for an additional 3 months, Minister, where the child being cared for passes away. The increase in the weekly earnings disregard for the one-parent family will be of assistance to one parent and help work pay and help incentivisation. And I know the amendment of the Pensions Act, which provides the right of entitlement in certain circumstances to spousal pension benefits for same-sex spouses and civil partners who are members of occupational schemes, is very important advancement, and I salute that. I think, Minister, you will agree and acknowledge that this is an issue which has been championed and advocated by my colleague Senator Ivana Bacik for a long period of time, and we in the Labour Party clearly support this enabling provision which this amendment now achieves in terms of equality of treatment in respect to pension entitlements, and which clearly related to the case of Dr Dáil Éireann, which was brought to the European Court of Justice. And which, the bill has significant parts of it devoted to contributions and pension entitlements arising therefrom, and of course it is a significant problem caused by changes in entitlements made in 2012. And now people who have attained pensionable age on or after 1 September 2012, and because of the new averaging system introduced, lost their entitlement to a full rate of state contributory pension. I'm especially pleased, indeed are all my Labour Party colleagues, that this issue can now be addressed by you, Minister Doherty, and that the additional resources now available as a result of strong economic growth, which was fostered during that time, can be allocated and remedy the situation once and for all. And I'm glad that this is now right. But there is an issue, Minister, I want you to ask her. A former colleague, who is a colleague of all of us here, has just contacted me, and he says, in relation to the pension equality review announced by the Minister, will only benefit people born after the 6th of September of 1946. That date should be the 6th of April 1946, as the changes were introduced on the 6th of April 2012. He's a very smart, this is a smart TD, I know he served his time as Deputy, and he says the creation of the inequality happened on the 6th of April 2012. We're now putting it on the 6th of September 2012, and you can see, and he's given me a case of a woman, he's a retired TD now, but he's given me a case just there seconds, as you saw me looking. On the 10th of April 1946, this woman was born. She was negatively impacted by the 2012 changes, but it appears she will not benefit from the current review. So I'm asking the Minister to take that into account and just amend it. There's probably only a handful, but unfortunately, an old TD, they never die, and I know the last young quarters like that, the boots are always on. And now, there will be no surprise to anybody in this House that I have taken a keen interest in pensions and the provision of issue of state pensions and the protection of defined benefit schemes, and particularly against unscrupulous employers, and you know, who have left at the stroke of a pen, left their employees short of their rights or deprived of their rights. And I spoke about this the delay yesterday, the 2017 bill, as referred to by Deputy Brady, at question time yesterday, and the Minister. So I just delved back in history, and I remember I read this and did this before. When the first old age pension scheme in the world was introduced by Bismarck in 1889 in Germany, the pension was payable at 70, and at that time, only 10% of Germans lived for more than 5 years after receiving their pension. The cost of old age pension was therefore only a very small part of government spending. Today, life expectancy in Ireland at 65 is 18 years for men and 21 years for women, and these expectancies are rising rapidly. Until recently, Ireland had a low age dependency ratio because sadly many emigrants from the 50s who should be growing old in Ireland are growing old in the UK and in the USA and other parts. At present, the old dependency ratio in Ireland is 21% compared to an average of 29% for the EU. We are fortunate to still have a relatively young population, but the birth rate is declining, and this combined with increased longevity will cause a rapid increase in the old dependency ratio over the next 20 years. So the increase in dependency ratio has been referred to as the pensions time bomb. I hate that term. It's as if the increase in life expectancy were a bad thing. Increased life expectancy is only a problem if a large proportion of the population is inactive or requiring care. A leading English geriatrician has recently suggested abandoning the terms associated with ageing and simply classifying people as active or inactive adults. An ever-increasing proportion of the population over 65 are in good health, thankfully, and capable of working, but many are required to retire at 65, whether they wish or not. Those dependent solely on the state old age pension, which is payable at 66 now and going up, are often forced into the humiliating position, as we've said before, of having to claim unemployment benefits on 366, and means legislative intervention in recent weeks dealt with public sector employees. It means public sector employees now have the option of working until 70. It's not mandatory but voluntary. But many private sectors do not have that. And there is a strong argument for putting an arrangement in place to enable all private sector workers who will be solely dependent on the state old age pension to work until 66 at least. Again, in a voluntary capacity, not mandatory. Japan has increased the age at which workers can draw a state pension to 70, and the proposal in there to increase the pension age to 75. But some workers who do hard physical work should be allowed to retire at 65 or 60 even, because it's very hard physical manual work, and on the building sites a lot of those construction workers. Many workers may well be in better shape and continue to work beyond 65 and should be facilitated to do so. The pensions time bomb lobby argue that providing a state pension will be unaffordable in the future because of the number of people who will be eligible to receive it, Minister. Pension reform is part of the free market economics consensus of organisations such as the OECD and World Bank. The OECD, in a report to the Irish pension system, ominously states, pension reform are part of many austerity programmes and is seen as a key element in reassuring markets that future commitments to pay back explicit and implicit public debt are credible. And I close the quote. In these discussions, there is no mention of the fact that in Ireland, employer PRSI contributions are among the lowest in the developed world. The solution to the crisis is always to make workers pay more and to privatise as much of the pension system as possible. A major so-called reform of Irish pensions was the introduction of personal retirement savings accounts, the PRSA. Although they have been in operation since 2003, only 50% of employers provide access to PRSAs, and only 4% of employees and 10% of the self-employed are contributing to them. When an attempt is made to cap the cost of PRSAs, the charges are higher than in the UK, the USA and Sweden. In the UK, there are several PRSI-type schemes and none have been successful. The only beneficiaries of the UK schemes have been the insurance companies and their agents providing them, and there has been misspelling scandals. Despite these failures, the main proposal for private pensions is a continuation and expansion of these schemes in Ireland. And now we're talking about automatic enrolment, so this is an important issue. There are generous tax relief for PRSAs, but with most tax reliefs in Ireland, those of the highest incomes benefit most. The proposals for existing private pension schemes include measures to improve governance. If this is to become a reality, the light touch regulation operated by the Pensions Board will need to become a lot tougher. Although Ireland has only 1% of the EU population, there are 164,000 occupational pension schemes, constitute 50% of such schemes in the EU. There are huge economies of scale in pension schemes, and the Pension Board should consider how these schemes could be consolidated. Despite the plethora of occupational schemes, Minister, only 35% of private sector workers have any pension cover, despite the generous tax relief, and that's what you're trying to tackle now at this stage. All the countries that have a higher level of cover have mandatory or quasi-mandatory schemes, but they are mainly very large schemes with low management costs and good returns. The main development in private pension in Ireland in recent years has been a shift from defined benefit to defined contribution schemes, and that's why the 2017 legislation is so important. This shifts all the risk to the employee. While some defined benefit schemes may have been over-generous, the shift to defined contributions is likely to mean more people partly dependent on the state pension to survive old age. The government's main role in the area of private pensions should be to reduce costs and investment risks. The continuation of tax relief should be contingent on providers delivering defined pension promises and defined contribution providers delivering a guaranteed lump sum at retirement. This lump sum should be the amount generated when contributions and investment returns grow at a nominal rate of 2% per annum. Reducing risks in time would also reduce the possibility of the state having to rescue failed private pension schemes, as happened with Waterford Glass and Esser Technics. I'm hopefully making a contribution to what's going to happen in a few years' time when I'm gone out of here. For the foreseeable future, the state-owned pension will remain the main source of pension for most pensioners. And at present, the old age pension replaces 35% of average earnings. This, with the additional non-cash benefits, is adequate to keep pensioners out of poverty, but will only do so in the future if it is maintained at this level in real terms by adjusting it to average earnings. I am concerned that the government seems eager to push a greater number of people into private pension schemes in order to reduce public spending on pensions. The policy of increasing coverage of private pensions has failed. It has increased subsidies to higher income earners, substituted individual pensions for occupational pensions, and shifted risks from employers to employees. The focus on increasing private pension coverage through an auto-enrolment scheme is the primary objective of the National Pension Framework. But this in itself ignores the failure of private pension systems and the importance of state pension as the most important source of income for pensioners. The main policy for Ireland's pension system should be to improve the coverage and adequacy of the state pension. The state pension should be a universal scheme, and the replacement rate should be increased to 40% of average industrial earnings. Immediately there will be cries that we cannot afford to implement these proposals, but a well-researched study by Social Justice Ireland, which estimates the cost of a universal pension scheme, shows that in the long term, paying for a universal scheme, and I quote, would be no more difficult than funding existing arrangements. Now, Minister, I have a few minutes to turn to my favourite topic, and maybe next year this whole thing could be over for the like of me, but I will certainly go out with this topic. And I want to turn my attention to the issue of caring in Ireland today and the plight of carers. I have unashamedly and with great energy during my time in political life, and especially here in the Dáil, been a strong advocate for carers, and to aim and with an objective of trying to continually improve their lot, because they're wonderful people, unsung heroes, genuine people. And, you know, there is a crisis in family carers. And that was the message that emerged from the primetime special that was in RTE in December 2017. 5 family carers bared their souls to the nation in the hope of highlighting the plight and representing thousands of carers across Ireland. And many carers in crisis have told their stories since with little or no response, and some of them tell it to us in private. I know that family carers, people like Anne Quinn, who won Care the Year in Westmeath, and many others, right throughout Westmeath, Longford, Meath, Offaly, Laois, wherever, they don't want to be patronised. They don't want our praise. They don't want our pity. Or indeed, they don't want to be canonised, because they're not saints. I'll tell you that. They're ordinary people who are struggling to care for their loved ones without the supports they so desperately need. They are angry at a system which exploits and sometimes abuses their family bonds and only pays lip service to the demands of caring safely for their loved one. They need respite, they need training. Some need a downstairs bathroom, others need home help hours when they need it, and not when the system decides it can give it, if indeed ever. Thousands of family carers are living in crisis, urgently needing a break. Their own physical and mental health is suffering, and they cannot get respite, even emergency respite, when they can no longer provide care. In Ireland today, all home care supports are discretionary, and therefore they are resource rather than needs-led. This equates to a system which is inequitable, inconsistent and flawed. And we're talking about a statutory entitlement to home care, and that's coming down the tracks, as we understand. But you know, that's 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and family carers cannot afford to wait that, Minister. They just need the support now. Deputy O'D made a very good reference to the postcode lottery, I think he said, was it down, for care support and services. See, where you live often determines what support you will get. And this has to change. Because if I'm out in the sticks, simple village like Ballincarriga, I should be able to get the same as a large town in Mullingar or Athlone, or people that live in Emperor or Ballincarriga or Sonner or Ratone or Castletown or Myvore or Ballymore or wherever. They should get the same as available in the large towns. So carers has to have access to key supports in their community throughout their caring roles. Supports such as timely information, in-home and residential respite, peer support groups, and ongoing training in line with the demands of their caring roles. And Deputy, I noticed this as well. Family carers presented you the government with, I think, with a solution to, I think, to try and eliminate this post-code lottery. It was what, 3 million or there, 3.5 million. And family carers then, the association could then provide access to core support for carers in their community, including emergency respite, essential training and peer support. But this seems to have fallen just between the cracks or disappeared. Today, 1 in 20 in Ireland's population of family care, and by 2020, as Deputy O'D says, and I got some details from the family carers when I was coming in here, demographic patterns predict this ratio will have fallen to 1 in 5. And international evidence is clear that the burden of care increases with time. Without appropriate support, care slide from capability to coping to crisis. And after nearly 10 years of, public cuts, some of them public, some of them covert, some of them overt, some of them hidden, too many individual carers have moved from coping to crisis. To avoid crisis, family carers must be supported throughout their caring journey and in accordance with their individual needs. For some, these needs will be minor, a few more hours of home support, with others requiring more extensive support as their role intensifies. I remember the government responding to the Carers in Crisis programme from RTE there, and it was swift, but probably not adequate. That was on the 15th of December. Additional funding was announced to improve Respite Care service and ensure that all carers then could access GP services without charge. Well, certainly you have to welcome anything that's brought forward. You can't be churlish. You have to be constructive. And there were certainly steps in the right direction, but to go nowhere because of the depth and scale of the crisis. And despite all this, the announcement, the figures for the first quarter of 2018 for Respite Care provision were down in the same figures in the same period in 2017. Now, another area concerning for family carers is pension entitlements. There remains in Ireland today a small number of long-term carers, I think caring in excess of 20 years, who qualify for neither a state pension, contributory or non-contributory, due to their caring responsibilities and the assets of their partner, and therefore receive no acknowledgement of the state of their years of care and the enormous contribution they made to society. Now, Minister, I understand that this is part of what you're going to try and tackle in your recent announcement, that you're moving to address this inequitable situation, and I look forward to your reply and confirmation that carers will be duly acknowledged in the total contribution system that's been prepared, to give them a chance, because a lot of those carers have saved the state multi-millions, 10 billion they're talking about, and as I said before, the whole system will collapse. The hospital system, the A&E system, and all of the home care packages and everything else, the whole system will collapse. So, but the reality is that significant numbers of carers remain, and thousands of family carers remain in crisis. And look, they're battling the whole time. They're battling against a system that requires carers allows recipients to provide full-time care, as Deputy Elise says, minimum 35 hours a week. And they just get 60 euros more than they get in the job seekers allowance. For doing a minimum of 35 hours a week. So they're getting buttons. A system that prevents recipients of carers allowance or carers benefits or the care support grant from working or studying more than 15 hours a week. Now, admittedly, you have to be there, but they are there. They're there right throughout the night. Alarm switched on. I know an in-law of mine who provided, sleeping with this thing in your ear virtually. It denies carers the right to a break, system that reduces the number of home support hours available for an older person or a person with a disability, whereas a family member in a C carers allowance. And it very often expects a carer to carry out essential tasks single-handed, when health and safety regulations prevent paid care workers from undertaking the same tasks due to risk injury. Deputy refers to failure to replace the mobility allowance and motorised transport was withdrawn. And means test carers access to the GP visit card. They feel very hurt by this. By offering it only to carers in receipt of carers allowance, while providing universal non-means to access to people aged 70, over 70, and children under 6. I mean, there's a group that in between the carers, we should do the same thing. A rigorous system of means testing. A rigorous system. I think the time has come to abolish the means test altogether for carers allowance. I've held that view. I've never changed for it. It was one of the recommendations in 2003 that I brought forward as Chairperson of Social Protection. It's the only one of the major ones that didn't get through. You spend more time on administration than you pay out the carers allowance, because if the caree is deemed medically required caring, that should be enough. That should be enough, because look, I mean, the people who are very rich are able to buy into care anyhow. The people who are very rich will buy into care. And it's a universality issue. So I'm asking the government to invest in home care now. For too long, home care has been underfunded, inconsistent and inequitable, leaving families with little choice but to choose a care home over home care. In the pre-budget submission, Family Carers Ireland called for an investment of 102 million to increase home support hours by 25%, from 17.09 million hours to 21.4 million hours. Ireland's first national care strategy was published in 2012, Minister, signalling the government's commitment to respecting carers as key partners and supporters and empowering them in their caring roles. The strategy has now come to an end of its timeline, and I am now calling for ring-fence funding to be provided for Phase 2 of the National Care Strategy for 2019 and 2012. All I'll say to conclude is that family carers are propping up our struggling health service. As I said, to save our state $10 billion each year. The question should be now, can we afford to support them? Should not be, can we afford to support them? But rather, can we afford not to?